glad to see you.
My little namesake, I love you.
What is your full name?
Lillian Jean Neal.
Where were you born?
In Gar Springs community, just out from Little Rock here.
What is your most vivid memory of the Great Depression?
Well, I know that cash was very in short supply, but we lived close to a railroad about a half a mile away, and in those days there were a lot of men traveling around trying to find jobs and just get from place to place, and they were called hobos. And sometimes the hobos would go up to the houses and ask for food. And they came over to my house one time, and my mother refused to feed the man because she said that I must have asked her why when after the man left. And she said, well, they sort of have a grapevine, which means if one comes and they get food, they tell somebody else, and pretty soon you have a lot of people coming asking for food. But the man went on down to my neighbor's, and she fed him down there. And I've always felt it was a shame, but I'm sure my mother had her reasons for doing it.
What were the major types of suffering by your family?
On Saturdays, sometimes my mother would have my sister and me in the car getting ready to go to downtown Little Rock to Blass's, which is now Dillard's, and to shop. And Daddy'd come up the car and ask Mama how much money she wanted. And she'd sit there and she'd hate to ask. She said later she just never knew how much he had, and so she would just sit there and he'd say, well, will 20 be enough? And she wouldn't say anything, so that's all she got. But I remember one time I thought I should speak up and say, Daddy, give her more than that. That's never enough. And she would have to really shop and pinch her pennies because she'd go to town and buy piece goods or material. In Blass's basement, she'd pick out some good material for dresses and things. But then she had to come back by the grocery store, and she always had to buy him a can of Prince Albert, and sometimes she had to buy some gasoline. Of course, they rarely bought more than $1's worth in that day because gasoline was cheap. But that $20, even in those days, didn't go far.
What do you remember as being the worst thing about life during the Depression?
Well, as far as I was concerned, I did okay. But there were a lot of people who didn't live on a farm who really suffered. They didn't have money for clothes or food or anything else, and I think that was the worst thing. There was just a shortage of cash around. Nobody had money to buy what they needed. But I guess I was one of the very fortunate ones. My friend Bill had a much harder time than I did. They lived in town, and he told one time about his mother cooked lima beans, and he and his brother ate them all and licked the plate.
What did you do for fun during the Depression?
Well, one thing we did, we had little toy cars and trucks, and when I was real young, and my sister was 4 years older and my brother 8 years older, but we were all still young enough to enjoy. We went up under in the backyard, and there was a big cedar tree up there, and we'd build roads and had little tobacco bags about 5 or 6 inches tall that sometimes Daddy would roll his own cigarettes, and tobacco would come in those little cloth bags, and we'd fill them with dirt or something and play like that was cow feed. And we built roads and drove our trucks along and delivered cow feed.